5 o'clock on April 12, 2022. I would like to have Abby please do a roll call of the city council members, please.
Council President Roeder.
Here.
Councilmember DePriest.
Here.
Councilmember Satterfield.
Yes.
Councilmember White. Here.
And I would ask Henry Netzer, who is a guest tonight, to give us present the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would, please.
We're not online. We're not on air.
Yeah, Michael's not here.
Oh, okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, I do want to welcome everybody for being here, taking time out of your evening, and being part of the process here at the City of Hayden. So thank you so much. Appreciate it very much. We have the first item on Agenda 1A is the 2022 Arbor Day Proclamation for the City of Hayden, which I will read. Arbor Day Proclamation for the City of Hayden. Whereas in 1872, Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas the holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, lower our heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife, and whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community, and whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Therefore, I, Matt Roeder, as acting mayor of the City of Hayden and Hayden City Council, do hereby proclaim May 18th, 2022 as Arbor Day in the City of Hayden. We urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and wildlands, and further urge all citizens to care for trees, to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this future for future generations. On this 12th day of April 2022. I have another proclamation that I will read. This is item 1B. It's a proclamation, April 2022, as Strengthening Family Month, Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness in the City of Hayden. Whereas, as a society, we have a responsibility to nurture and protect our children and help ensure they become healthy and productive adults, and whereas all members of the community have a role to play in strengthening families to ensure children are valued and supported, and whereas all communities have the responsibility to offer parents the education, support, and skills they need to provide healthy, safe, and nurturing homes for their family, whereas child abuse and neglect can be reduced by making sure each family has the support they need in raising their children in a safe, nurturing environment, whereas in the City of Hayden there are numerous committed agencies, parents, relatives, community volunteers, public policy makers, and professionals who are collaborating their efforts to eliminate child abuse in the city and give our children hope, security, and safety. Whereas a statewide Pinwheels for Prevention campaign has been launched through the media, public schools, libraries, social service agencies, and businesses during the month of April to celebrate and bring awareness of the great potential of all children in Idaho and the need to strengthen all families with support and nurturing. And whereas the Pinwheels for Prevention campaign includes the planting of pinwheel gardens statewide celebrating community partnerships for strengthening the family and protecting all children from abuse and neglect. And whereas effective child abuse prevention programs succeeded because of partnerships created among social service agencies, schools, religious and civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. And whereas all citizens should become more aware of the negative effects of child abuse and its prevention within the community and become involved in supporting parents to raise the children in a safe, nurturing environment. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Hayden City Council and the City of Hayden joins in declaring April 2022 to be Strengthening Families Month, Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness, and in so declaring, the City of Hayden officials, employees, citizens, community agencies, religious organizations, medical facilities, and businesses are encouraged to increase their participation in efforts to prevent child abuse, thereby strengthening the communities in which we live, dated this 12th day of April 2022. All right, and this is to be presented to, we have a presentation to give to Henry.
Mr. Gerblin.
Pardon?
Mr. Gerblin.
Oh, okay. Would you come up, please? And we have a I'd like to thank you for your efforts and what you've done, and we want to give you a copy of this proclamation. Do we want to go? Let's go over in the middle here. Okay. Right underneath the seal. Again, I want to thank you very much for your efforts and your work, and it's a.
I really want to thank the City of Hayden for just recognizing the importance of taking care of our kids in our community. And so thank you so much for bringing this to the attention of everybody. And I say that on behalf of the Idaho Children's Trust Fund. So thank you.
Let's give them a hand. Okay, the next thing on our agenda is 2A USS Idaho Presentation, excuse me. And could you state your name and where you live, please?
Thank you. My name is Henry Netzer. I'm a resident of Hayden since 1990. I'm retired from the United States Navy Reserve. I served on submarines during the Cold War. The sale of my submarine is at the Arco Submarine Museum in Arco, Idaho, USS Hawkbill. I trained at the Idaho National Engineering Lab as a nuclear-trained submarine officer, served on that submarine out of Hawaii, and then I served also at the Navy's Acoustic Research Detachment in Bayview, Idaho. And I'm happy to say that I don't have one whereas in my presentation. I'm going to show some eye candy, so it's okay if you want to move and get a little further over there. For the first time in 100 years, Idaho's going to have a ship named after it. It's the USS Idaho SSN 799. It's under construction in Connecticut. I'm going to cover a few things about the in-state organization and the link that Idaho has to the Navy. And I'm going to look for Abby to cut me off because I know you have a lot of important business going on today. So here we go. So 7 years ago, the Navy decided that they would name a ship after Idaho, and it's taken up until a year and a half ago before the keel was laid in Connecticut in 2000. So again, the first time since the USS Idaho battleship was named 100 years ago. What does the committee look like? Former Governor Kemp Thorne leads the advisory group. You folks really should move. Good. Bad for you to see stuff. It's okay. Stand up. Move around. He has an advisory group of senior flag officers. Most of those guys are in Boise. And then there were some regional organizations that I'll cover in just a second. Governor Kay has taken on the group kind of with a vengeance for fundraising and getting things done. As comparison, USS Colorado, a state with 5 times as many people as Idaho, barely raised $500,000 for their commissioning committee. We're pushing $1 million, and we're only a year and a half into what we're doing. So that's kind of the overall organization. Those are some of the folks that are on Governor's Advisory Group. Rear Admiral, let's see if I can do this down here. Janetko lives in Post Falls. And most of these guys are submariners like myself. Some are not. The in-state organization is led by Richard Coburn. And then we have regional chairs, of which I am one for the North Idaho region, Southeast, South Central, Southwest, and then overall treasurers. And that's how the committee is organized. So I've got the biggest county with the least population, Idaho, all the way to the border, and those other regions are further south there. Please holler out if there are any questions. What's the committee supposed to do? Again, I'll read this rather quickly. Bring together the people of the great state of Idaho and the officers and crew of the USS Idaho to celebrate in exemplary fashion the extraordinary honor of having a ship of the line named for the state. Create a bond between the people of Idaho and the sailors of the submarine that will last throughout the life of the ship and beyond. Recognize with great honor the men and women who have served and will serve throughout the history of the land we now call Idaho. And in our mission, I'll just give you a second to read that. Basically, it's do stuff in-state as well as pay for things the Navy doesn't pay for as part of the commissioning process. Everybody with me so far? Great. Regional committee, that's me. Community outreach, getting the information out to civic and small business organizations as well as schools so that we don't get to the point where there's a headline in the press and people will say, nobody told me there was a USS Idaho. So this is what we're all about, to get the word out. We'll do some fundraising. Governor Kay made 20 phone calls, raised $1 million with the heavy-duty donors. And then for the smaller businesses and civic organizations, the goal is participation, although there is an opportunity for individuals to donate. With a modest donation, you can promote yourself to Admiral. As well as civic organizations, you'll get a nice honorary plank owner certificate for there. That's ssn799.org. I'm not here to hit you up for money, okay? Mostly to give the information out. But again, if you want to promote yourself to Admiral, it's a pretty easy way to do that. Here's our current budget. We're probably going to blow through that in a few months. Again, commissioning functions, the stuff the Navy doesn't pay for. They'll get the ship to the Navy, but the crew dinner, the plank owner certificates, commemorative items like that, that's what the committee will pay for. Scholarships, the Dolphin Scholarship Fund is college scholarships for crew members and their families for as long as the ship is in commission, which will be more than 30 years, as well as other submariners. So dolphins are the warfare insignia that submariners wear. So the Dolphin Scholarship will get all the money we don't spend, and will be at least that $260,000. Habitability improvements are when the Navy builds a ship, it's haze gray and underway. We'll provide some unique habitability improvements to make it look more like home. Pictures of perhaps a chart of Lake Ponderay, pictures of mountains, stuff they just don't have in Connecticut. And then crew visits to the state, we'll talk about that in a bit. The naming. In the past, submarines were named after fish. But around 1970, the Navy figured out fish don't vote. So they changed over to name them after cities and now after states. So we're very happy that that's what's happening right now. Again, the naval history of Idaho is very significant and long-lasting, especially for a landlocked state. The acoustic research attachment in Bayview is where the quieting improvements were developed, and the Naval Reactors Facility down in southern Idaho is where the reactor was developed. That does not need to be refueled in the 30-year life of the ship. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about Air Force history because that's where Boise is, Air Force country, but I'm not going to talk about that. We also want to honor all warriors, Native American, from all walks of life, and the history of that Idaho has with the military. Tell you stuff you already know. Farragut Naval Training Center, now the Acoustic Research Detachment, all the stuff in the north there. Perhaps some stuff that was not as familiar as all the stuff in southern Idaho. And then during World War II, there was a convalescent home in Sun Valley. I went to the Nuclear Power Training Unit in southern Idaho, and they actually had 16-inch gun barrels they would bring back and refurbish during World War II and shoot them down in southern Idaho. So again, a long-standing relationship there. Past ships, most recent was BB-42 in World War II. She was actually in Tokyo Bay for the surrender. What's going on with the construction? Keel was laid almost 2 years ago. Christening's probably going to move out a little bit to spring of 2023. Commissioning will be about a year after that. Christening is when we break the bottle. Ship goes in the water for the first time. Traditionally, that's done with champagne. Governor Kay says, we can do better than that. We're gathering water from major bodies of water in Idaho, Lake Ponderay, Lake Coeur d'Alene, Henry's Fork, Payette Lake. We're going to bottle that up, and the sponsor is going to christen Idaho with waters from Idaho. Okay, so Idaho is here, laid down. EB is the electric boat shipyard in Connecticut. NN is Newport News in Virginia. So the ships that are ahead of us in Connecticut are the Oregon. It will be commissioned at the end of May, and we'll watch for the Rickover, the Iowa, and then we'll be up next after that. We have a team going out for the Oregon's commissioning to get the lay of the land, make arrangements for the commissioning dinner, etc. Agri-beef from southeast Idaho, they raise the Wagyu beef. They are going to cater the commissioning dinner, donation in kind. Technology. There's the overall of the ship, 377 feet by 34, 7,800 tons. The fast attack I was on during the Cold War was 4,500 tons. So this guy's quite a bit bigger. That reactor, again, precursor was developed at the Idaho National Lab, southeast Idaho. All these quieting improvements, the large aperture bow array, and the placement of those items was tested and evaluated at Bayview. So to get the cost down, both major shipyards do what they do best. So the green is Newport News. They will make all those bow sections, all the stern sections. Electric Boat will make all the engine room and reactor compartment components, as well as the combat control system. When their portion is done, it's put on a barge, floated up from Newport News to Connecticut, or from Connecticut down to Newport News, under fairly heavy security, obviously, and then they're put together so each yard can do what they do best and keep the construction costs down. Closer up of that. We'll skip over there. Okay, every major quieting improvement on U.S. submarines since the Cold War was tested, evaluated, or improved upon at the Acoustic Research Detachment in Bayview. Where that sail goes, what's the shape of that cusp? Where does the high-frequency sonar chin dome go? What does the propulsor look like? What do the stern planes look like? What does the internal structure work like? All those things were developed and tested at Bayview. And we're now testing the next generation, would be the Ohio-class SSBN replacements. That's ongoing up at Bayview. So that work has been going, is continuing, and will continue in the future. Some of the innovations there are the basically 6-shooter vertical launch tubes in the bow. For 40, 50 years, the major sonar for submarines was a big sphere in the front. That's being replaced by what's called the large aperture bow array. Less weight, performs better. We demonstrated we could make submarines quiet and effective by making them big, heavy, and costly. So the goal now is to make them equally perform well, but make them way less, cost less. One of the innovations is a photonics mask. How are we doing, Abby, on time? You okay?
Yeah, we're at like 15 minutes.
Okay. In the past, the Combat Control Center had to be up high in the submarine because the solid periscope went from the keel all the way up through. And the shape of the hull limited the space there. So we said if we can move the control center down to the middle of the ship, we can get a lot more gear in there. How do we do that? We get rid of the periscope. So for old guys submariners like myself, it's like, I can't believe they moved the cheese. But it'll be 6 seconds up, do a scan, 360, come down and analyze all the data. It'll be a lot more secure and a lot more well, and off we go. Okay, so that's the old school. That could have been me a few years back. And then the new one is everything comes up on a screen. We bring the crew out 5, 6, 7 guys at a time. Showcase Idaho to the Navy to Idaho. They get a tour of the ARD if they come north. They'll get the Idaho National Lab if they go southeast. They see the legislature if they go southwest. Stop in to see major donors. Hecla Mine is making a silver commemorative coin from silver from the Lucky Friday mine. They're giving those to the plank owners, the sailors that are on initial commissioning, and we'll sell a different version to the public as part of fundraising. That's their donation in kind, and here are some of the other major donors. Other things we try to do is be part of the functions and parades. Will be at the University of Idaho, a homecoming, and show the crew stuff they don't see in Connecticut, like clean water, and mountains, and the slopes. This is a character written up by a gentleman down south, that ship in the uniform of the day. And past events listed there, future, they'll go to the Melaleuca Festival, and they'll be up here again in October. So that's basically, I'm done. Subject to your questions.
Not a question, but a comment. I mean, it sounds like Idaho has a big hand in developing the technology used in the subs with Bayview, with its testing of acoustical testing, and the National Engineering Lab in southeastern Idaho, that we are contributing quite a bit to this technology.
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
it's neat to know that we have that contribution to our military.
Yeah,
and I want to thank you for, again, your service, Captain Netzker, in presenting this today and letting us know what you're doing. And that now Idaho has a name, or will have a name, on one of our newest subs. So I want to thank you very much. So let's give him a good hand here.
Trifolds on the back, business card. Any more information you need, directs you to a website. Again, promote yourself to Admiral. It's pretty easy. Thanks, Abby.
One last thing as you go.
Yes, sir.
I grew up in Connecticut. I've been to New Groton, Connecticut, and the water isn't very clean back there. I couldn't believe that there was a river the size of the Salmon River that was so big and so clear. I'd never seen anything like that.
Yeah,
So we're really blessed to have
lived
it.
in Connecticut for 12 years. I moved out here. So anyway,
Thank you
all
again.
for your work to keep Hayden the place we like. Thank you.
All right, the next thing that we have is I have a presentation to give. Elizabeth Farley, are you here? Would you come up? And we have a certificate of appreciation for your work on the Arts Commission. And I'll just read it. With deep appreciation from the City of Hayden for your many hours of volunteer service on the Arts Commission from December 2016 to December 2021. Your time, commitment, and contribution to our community is appreciated. Thank you for volunteering to serve and setting a good example for others in our community. So thank you. Please come up and we'll give you this certificate. The logo. So anyway, here we go. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a privilege. Thanks, Ryan.
Okay, consent calendar. I have to get a glass of water before I read this one. As a reminder, all the items on the consent calendar are action items. So, 3A, approval of March 22nd, 2022 City Council meeting minutes. 3B, approval of April 4th, 2022 emergency City Council meeting minutes. 3C, approval of Hayden Area Regional Sewer Board wastewater treatment plant facilities upgrade payment request. 3D, approval of 2022 Sing Play Move contractual service agreement with Marilyn Griffiths. 3E, approval of 2022 pickleball lessons contractual services agreement with Tom Darzies. 3F, approval of Hayden Bible Church Family Bible School event permit application and loudspeaker request. 3G, acceptance of Kootenai Humane Society grant of easement and dedication of right-of-way. 3H, acceptance of Nick Estates LLC dedication of right-of-way. 3I, approval of Welsh Comer and Associates Inc., authorization for additional services for Hayden Avenue and Ramsey Road intersection, Phase 1. 3J, approval of Welsh Comer Engineers, Inc., authorization for additional services for Hayden Avenue and Atlas Road roundabout design. 3K, approval of PZE-21-0241 Thousand Hills Zone Map Amendment written decision. 3L, approval of PZE-21-0264 Taylor Zone Map Amendment written decision. 3M, approval of Amendment 1 of Welsh Comer on-call survey contract for development reviews. 3N, approval of Amendment 1 of Welsh Comer on-call engineering contract for development reviews. 3O, approval of La Ravine, Inc., change order number 1 for Honeysuckle Avenue and 4th Street roundabout project. 3P, approval of La Revenir. I know I'm probably massacring that, but change order number 2 for Honeysuckle Avenue and 4th Street roundabout project. 3Q, approval of Morris Family LLC number 1 A to Z storage right-of-way easement and deferred development agreement. 3R, approval of Stripe Right Inc. street striping agreement. 3S, ratification of March payroll And finally, 3T, approval of bills for payment. So is there any discussion or any items to be addressed separately on the consent calendar?
Discussion. I have questions, I guess.
Okay, Ed?
There's no motion first? Okay. Yep, several questions here, so kind of bear with me. And as I think I prefaced most of the time, this is a lot of, just for my and hopefully the audience education. So let's visit the Hayden Area Regional Sewer Board first. I guess my main concern is, and I'm hoping, that these are all expected and budgeted and normal, but $831,000, $1,950, $42,250, $4468. There's one for $1 million something in here somewhere. $1,251,000, $1,845, and so forth. Are those all normal? They're in the budget. They're expected. It's part of the whole upgrade process. Is this what I'm understanding?
Do you want to answer that? Right.
These are part of the phase project that's ongoing at the treatment plant for regulatory purposes to upgrade the plant to meet the regulatory requirements, and it those improvements have been before council prior and approved, and these are expected expenses.
Okay,
yes.
so it's nothing new, and it's a lot of it funded by grants and everything else that's funding this, or all of the funding?
It's funded by the loan that we have with DEQ.
all
So
loan.
these are draws on that loan
Okay.
that we expected
Okay.
to pay.
Okay, and the next one, the amendment number 1 to Hayden Ramsey.
Which item?
Okay, which one is this? Hayden Ramsey.
That'd be I.
Aye. Yeah. Where does it say here? Amendment allows right-of-way acquisition expert to help the city. It says they ran into issues of potential right-of-way impact. What are the issues and what's going on here?
The city is in the middle of a project that is doing the design for the intersections of Ramsey Road and Atlas Road with Hayden. So there's two intersections. There's two. The right-of-way to reconstruct those intersections is quite extensive, and in some cases there's could be expensive pieces of property, and we're trying to evaluate to make sure that the direction we're heading for the city, on behalf of the city and staff, that we're taking care of any liabilities before we get there to try and to minimize the costs and to minimize any potential liabilities down the road as we proceed with the design recommendations.
And you're bringing in an expert, or I take it, for...
On right-of-way acquisition issues.
Okay. Was this foreseen at all, or is this something that we ran into and basically said, we better be real sure, and this is going to be an additional...
This was as a result of the concept design and looking at the impacts to the adjacent property owners and making sure that we're not being arbitrary and that we're actually taking and determining what may be the most costly, because we don't know what some of these properties are commercial, some of them have other issues with them, and so just to make sure we're not stepping into something that's going to cost us far more than we had ever anticipated.
And I don't know that, because you kind of, I don't know that this is even the place to really discuss that, but the thought that, what if it turns out that they say, whoa, guys, the feasibility of really doing this, what kind of a dent could that possibly put in the plan?
I think the intent is to get a report from them that will allow us to make good decisions. And then that way, as we move forward, we'll have made good decisions on how we're addressing those issues.
Okay. So we've got the Atlas one also.
I'd like to add just something. Alan, that's pretty typical that when we are looking at improving an intersection, that we do hire a consultant to help in the acquisition, because they understand the process and they understand the appraisal process, and it's to help that process move forward. Is that
yes, this actually isn't the acquisition part of it. This is before we get the design done that would require that acquisition, so that if we need to make design adjustments to minimize the impacts and the costs of the city, we can make those now and not at a later date, and once we've gone so far down the road that it's hard to make a change.
Thank you.
Okay. And now I guess I get to get into the budget here. And again, these are really, I think, just my curiosity and clarification of them. On page 6 of 26, the FCS Group Impact Fee Study, $2,160. It seems again like this is almost a recurring monthly cost. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like I see an impact fee study. Is this normal, I guess, is what I'm...
Yeah, they're billing us throughout for the contract amount
So we'll see this monthly as this...
until this is completed, yes.
Okay, and when is the anticipated completion of where they would...
We're almost done. We had a meeting. They have some tweaking to the last one to do, and then it should be coming back to the council.
Like the end of May, we're
End of
hoping.
May.
Okay.
Month or so.
And then on page 7 of 26, Holly Troxel, Ennis Holly LLP, H6 Lift Station, LID, 5330. I believe we had a workshop. Is this related to that workshop, that LID that was discussed in that workshop? H6?
It is, it's
Yeah.
continuing work on that.
Okay.
But we're required to have specialized bond counsel for discussion of any of those financial related bonding and
Statutorily required?
LID issues on that H6. So,
Okay.
So that's
Yeah, so-
specialized counsel.
So Danielle with Holly Troxel is specialized bond counsel. She's been participating in some of the meetings we've had, looking at the properties and the information related to forming an LID.
Okay. Page 9, Helena Chemical Company Corporation Weed Control, 6612, Building and Grounds. Again, I think, are we buying the chemicals and applying them, or is Helena applying them?
We do both. There's certain chemicals we buy. In this case, these are chemicals we bought. We'll spray our wastewater lift station sites. We spray the right-of-way here for broadleaf. We spray for aphids. We spray for a
So it's
number of things.
we're buying the chemical, our people are doing the application? Okay. Les Schwab Tire, sway bar repair and rotate, $2,000.
What page?
For this is page 12 of 26 for a 2001 Ford 550 4x4. So did we bend up a sway bar or something like that, or?
It's one of our older trucks. And it needed some replacement worn parts, and the tires rotated because of the worn parts. We get bad wear on the tires. So
Okay, so what was the sway bar? I mean, that's a part that
it's a part that
failed, or?
it's part of the suspension.
Yeah.
No, the connections and the joints.
Yeah, I noticed. But my question is, was the sway bar replaced, or because $2,000 for rotating tires? You know.
Well, it's the labor and materials and parts.
Okay. Yeah, it was basically is a part that probably had to be. Okay. On page 14, Northern State Security Patrol. Do we have a security? Do they patrol like the parks? What do they patrol?
They patrol the parks. They patrol our facilities, both the street facility, City Hall, Parks facility.
Nightly.
I believe it's nightly, yes.
Yeah.
They'll go there, check at night.
They
It's an
make
annual
sure
contract.
doors are locked in our bathrooms, a number of...
Okay. Page 15, Panhandle Area Council membership. Is that monthly, quarterly, annually?
Annually.
Annually?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
annual.
Okay. Hang on, we're almost there. Again, Welch Comer and Associates, Honeysuckle Roundabout Design, $6,700, $9,000 for boat launch and stuff like that. Again, is this part of the monthly process of the contract with them for the roundabout, or?
That's for more than one contract, but yes, it's a monthly invoice while they're doing work. The beach project is getting close to being done. We should be getting a final report on that. The roundabout is just entering into construction, so we will continue to see a monthly invoice from them for their time.
So the beach study, is that related to the boat ramp issue? Okay. And the last one, the Ancestry.com, now, I mean, it's a $75 thing, but for Preservation Commission, Historic Preservation Commission, does the Historic Preservation Commission have their own budget, or, and so why are we making a payment?
It's coming out of their budget.
It's coming out of their budget? just
What's allocated, yeah.
Through us?
Their budget is our budget.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions or discussions from other council members?
Yeah, but Councilmember DePriest got a lot of mine, so mine are whittled down here. I was wondering about J, item J, the Hayden Avenue and Atlas Road Roundabout design, the $8,300 on that one. What does that cover there?
I believe that is the same as the one we discussed just a minute ago. There's two. There's an Atlas and there's a Ramsey. The other one was for Ramsey intersection.
Okay.
This one's for the Atlas intersection, but it's the same study type to evaluate the right-of-way to make sure we're looking, give us a good idea where we're headed anyway.
Okay, great. Okay. Did we talk about, the change order for Le Riviere, the $6,987? Did we talk about that one yet?
No, we
is-
didn't.
No.
It's La Riviera.
Okay, La
It's the
Riviera.
pronunciation
Thank you.
for the record. The change order is going to change the time frame. It's going to reduction in the amount of time that project's going to take place. So we'll be reducing the impacts to the city on that. There are some changes that will allow them to change their work effort and the way they work in order to do that. So it's a trade-off, giving them a little bit of leadway to do it a little different in order to reduce the time that it'll take to get it completed, which will reduce the impacts to the public.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I had.
The other one, the number one that you brought up, and Alan can talk about this, that $6,000, that's the disposal of the concrete asbestos pipe.
Yes, that's right.
That's underneath the project.
That's a pass-through cost. So this project has multi-agencies involved. We have a water system that goes underneath there. It's not the cities. There's also sewer force mains that are not the cities. That work has to be completed. The contract is with the city of Hayden, but some of those change orders will actually be paid for by other agencies, so that will be paid for by the water district, not the city. But since we are in charge of the contract, it has to come through us.
Okay. Oh, I did have one more question about the, let's see, those, the pickleball lessons and those things. It says they're paid a percentage of the proceeds. How does that work?
Yeah, when we contract with someone to provide services, we get 30%, they get 70%. So it's a standard contract. We don't pay it, it comes out of the registration fees, whatever fees we collect.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilman Satterfield, do you have anything?
No, I don't have any questions. Thanks.
So at this point, I'd like to call for a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I will motion to approve the consent calendar, A through T.
I second that.
Could we have a roll call, please, Abby?
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
Council President Roeder?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
And Councilmember DePriest?
Yes.
Okay, now we move on to item 4, visitor public comments. And we have one person that would like to speak. And if Linda Putz would like to come to the podium, and if you could state your name and where you live, and you get, is it?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. So do you have a timer going?
I do.
All right, go ahead, Linda.
Linda Putz, 4529 East Cattail Court in Hayden. And God willing, there's nothing controversial that I'm going to bring up, and hopefully it won't turn into a Coeur d'Alene Press article. I just wanted to drop a seed, an idea, a thought regarding the new water tower that's going in. I know a lot of people were not happy with it, but we understand why it's there. We're just wondering if we could make it pretty. So I was speaking to somebody a little earlier, and the suggestion was made that there can be wraps, I guess. And I mean, we could have something really pretty that could say, whatever. I'm not a design person, but I've seen a lot of water towers. Welcome to Hayden, and trees and water or something. I don't know. But that's it. So no controversy. Just an idea. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the next item is unfinished business 5A. It's the approval of process for mayor appointment. And who would like to start off with that? Brett, would you like to take lead on it, please?
I can start off. So in your packets, there's some information that the council requested that we put together as part of this process. The first one is an information sheet that would go out to candidates. It has the duties, abilities, qualifications, basic qualifications you'd have to be in there, additional desired qualifications, application requirements, and then apply by. So kind of like a job announcement type of thing. So you have a draft of that, and so if there's something in there that you want to modify, you can do that. We also included, you had also talked about having an application to that. So there's an application that HR put together that has some of the basic things that we need to know from these folks that would be in addition to. We had on there that they would submit a resume, a cover letter, the application that's here, 3 letters of reference from Hayden citizens, and then a signed release to conduct a background check. So those were the things that we heard from you as far as requesting what you would want when it goes out. And then the last item was a process sheet. Again, it has different ideas for discussion on what you may want to do here. About advertising after you give direction, if there's direction tonight, get it advertised, to close it, put packets together, have HR kind of put it all together, and then there's an option here. Again, we have that if there is a current council member that wants to go on, they would automatically be put in. Don't have to, that's up to you. The candidates from the council wouldn't rate or put questions in. And so I had one, the council could rate those as they came in and decide like the top 3 to 4 to bring in for an interview. I put on here also an independent body. You could come up with an independent body to review and suggest who could come forward, that top 3 or 4 out of that application packet, and then you'd bring them here and interview. Down below, some of the parameters that we put together, and the attorney can chime in as well. We had that any candidate for mayor from the current council would not be able to vote to rate the first candidates down to the 3 or 4, vote for or interview the candidates. Anyone participating as an applicant would not see the questions beforehand, nor give input on what questions should be. The final decision is discussed and debated in open meeting here. The application process just suggested for about 2 weeks to keep it open, and that I had on here the staff prepares, but city attorneys determine the questions for interview. So to work through, and then we can take direction from those non-candidate council members as well. So this is just kind of an outline from what we heard as far as a process, and so I don't know if Fonda wants to weigh in on any other parameters, but is to give you the information you asked for and some parameters, and then turn it over to you for discussion, and then give us direction on what you'd like to do.
I would just like to say that what we're embarking on is the process which the Idaho statutes are quiet on, is what the process is for appointing an interim mayor that will serve until the election of November 2024. So that person that we appoint will serve as interim mayor for about a year and 9 months, 10 months roughly. So at that point, then an election will occur to the public, and the public will select that person. And the interim mayor will act as just the normal mayor. All the responsibilities, which is and duties are part of what we have described in here. So if anybody is interested, they can see what is required of a mayor. The one thing that I didn't see on here, and I'll just bring up is, and it's a difficult question, but how much time is required for a mayor to do their job? And I don't know if we can answer that, but I know it varies and depends if there's COVID's around too. I mean, because there's a lot of things that are happening that could happen. So, Brett, I don't know, is that something that we can give an idea of just how much time a mayor has to spend in this?
It depends, on the time. Sometimes there's less time, and on other times, like during COVID, there were times where the mayor was working 8-10 hours a day, or more. They went out to, talking with business owners and talking with folks. So it goes up and down. It can be just really a kind of a part-time thing to something more full-time, depending on needs. So that probably doesn't answer. I can't give you like a numeric number that it's going to be 40 hours a week. I think there were times where it was a lot, and others, the mayor relies on, staff to help out a lot, and it's meant to be a part-time type position, but really it can be full-time at times.
So, Fonda, you may have some things you'd like to add to talk about how the process that you've reviewed this and you have some input on this. Would you like to share?
So I've reviewed this with Brett. We made some adjustments based on some input we received from the Deputy Attorney General that we sought some guidance from, because as you indicated, Idaho Code is silent on this process, and so we wanted to make sure that we were providing good direction to council with regards to expectations from a state level. And so one of the things that was brought to our attention by the Deputy Attorney General, and I'm thankful we reached out to him, was that once this goes out, and it's reflected in this proposal, once this goes out to a community involvement process, to make sure that whatever process we put in place is really fair to everyone, whether it's a person who's currently on council or whether it's a community member. And so the council members who choose to participate and be considered will not vote for themselves. I wanted to make sure you all heard that loud and clear. They will not vote for themselves. And also, they will not be involved in the decision-making process of the questions that are created, and they will not see those questions ahead of time. And we had some really good feedback by the public after our last discussion about this, on really just some input on making sure it's fair to everyone and that everyone gets the same equal opportunity to be considered. So I think the options presented to you tonight in this sort of flow chart incorporates the information we've received from the Attorney General with some direction, and also put some good decision points for you to sort of finalize this process and make sure it's fair to everyone. And we also received direction in the event council is unable to make a decision, just for the public's knowledge. There is an opportunity under Idaho Code to have the governor appoint, but council needs to make every effort first to try to reach a consensus on appointing an acceptable candidate. And we know what the next part of the process will be if they're unable to do that. And they need to do it in a reasonable amount of time. And so there's nothing that's happened so far that makes this unreasonable at this stage. It's just important because, as you all sit here and know, we have 4 council members, and essentially city business could stall out if we don't have a tiebreaker. So it's important to get that mayor in place as quickly as reasonably possible.
And just to that one point, and Brett, before I'll let you, that so far we haven't had a need for a tiebreaker other than the vote to appoint Councilman Satterfield as mayor. So I think it's important to know we're functioning as a council. We're doing our job, and I was told by Michael, who's our IT guy, that it was the meeting before this or the one before that. It was the fifth longest meeting in the history of Hayden. So we are moving forward. We're taking care of business, and I'd like to point that out. So, Brett.
I wanted to clarify, so in the options for you there between number 1 and 2 in that middle bar, and I'm referring to something that was in the packet. The first one was the non-candidate council, that they would rate the candidates numerically top to the bottom, and you'd come up with the top 3 or 4. We have, I've talked with HR, Sean, we have kind of a rough rating sheet that could be used for that. And so the idea would be that you would get this package and then you would rate them based on these rating factors and then come up with the top 3 or 4. So that was one way. The second one, and this I'm just trying to differentiate here, was council debates and decides, meaning you get the packet and then you decide in here, you discuss amongst each other who the top 3 or 4 are, or whatever number you want to go on in the process would be. So that's differentiating between 1 and 2. And then 3 was this independent body to review and suggest. And I threw on there, folks from Chamber of Commerce, Jobs Plus, County Commissioner, the press, prior mayors, just folks from the community. So that's the distinction between those 3 options. And again, they were just to give you some ideas on ways to narrow the group down. And I don't know how many candidates we'll get. I mean, if we end up with just a couple candidates, then we don't need that one. Then we just come here. But if you get 8 or 10, you've got to figure a way. You don't want to bring 8 or 10 candidates in here and go through all the questions with them. I don't think you would. I mean, you could. I wouldn't suggest that.
So, Fonda, what I'd like to propose, and I'd like your feedback on this, is to try to pick this apart in 3 different steps. I think I'd like to propose that we look at the application, approve that, make a motion, approve it. Then let's look at the draft of the request for candidates, mayor, the abilities, the duties, approve that. And then the more complex step would be the third one that's going to require more, I believe, more discussion and input from the council on how we do that. So I think it'd be more complex if we try to group it all together. If we can at least get 2 of the 3 voted on and said, yeah, that's what we'd like to do. Is that?
I suggest you start with the request for candidates, the draft version of that. So for the public who doesn't have a copy of this in front of them, this is what you would put out to the public as sort of a solicitation to say we're looking for candidates for mayor. It talks about the duties of the mayor. Mayor shall be the chief administrative official of the city, preside over the meetings of the city council, and determine the order of business subject to such rules as the council may prescribe. This is directly out of Idaho Code 50-602. So I think you look at that duties paragraph, make sure you are all okay with that. The next section is abilities and qualifications. So the mayor, serving as the head of the executive branch of our city government, should have leadership qualities that would inspire public support, professionalism, administrative skills, public speaking, and the ability to attract business and jobs. They need to be inclusive, transparent, and accountable, be able to preside over meetings, execute official documents as approved, serve in ceremonial roles on behalf of the city. They would need the ability to communicate, use a computer, understand budgets and numbers, ability to understand laws, ordinances, and codes, and declare emergencies as needed, have the ability to interact well with other local government officials. So that's the next section. I won't read this whole thing. The next section is the qualifications, and then there are some additional desired qualifications that say experience serving on community commissions, such as planning and zoning, parks, etc., active and involved in the community, and volunteers in the community. And then there's the application requirements and the deadline. The application requirements simply says submit a resume, cover letter, application, and 3 letters of reference. So I think it's important, this would be important to agree on the language for this first.
Right.
And I think it's completely fine to take this in 3 separate action steps and then move on to, I agree with you, make sure that the application that's been presented to you is acceptable. I've reviewed all of this. My partner, who had her twins, in case anybody's wondering, has also reviewed.
6-pounders, right?
Yeah, each of them was over 6 pounds, so they're home resting. I've reviewed all of this, so if you have any particular questions about these documents, now is the time, I think, to discuss those. But I agree, from a process perspective, it might make most sense to hammer these out first.
Okay, and then with this request for candidates, the draft, we're going to have to also decide how we're going to advertise this, because we haven't put a budget. We haven't said where it's going to be advertised and how. So is that something we're going to have to tag on to this?
We can. I mean, you can. As far as HR, something typical we talked about. Obviously, put it in the paper online, and if there's some other suggestions, I don't think there's. If we do it a couple times in the paper, we're talking of a few $100s. And I'm guessing, I mean, we have the paper here, I'm sure they'll probably do an article on this as well. So it's going to be well covered in the paper. So I'm not worried about that. And so then it's, we'll probably throw it on we have a Facebook page that actually has close to, is it 4,000? 4,000 people now on our Facebook page, which is great. We can shoot it out on that, and just kind of those usual things. I think that's probably enough, and then folks that are interested online will have heard it.
So do we need to include, if we approve this, whatever we approve, do we have to put a dollar amount, or you're saying, no, we don't?
You don't need to put a dollar amount.
You don't need a dollar amount.
Okay. All right, so what I'm looking for is a motion to approve the draft City of Hayden request for candidates - mayor document. And then we can open it up, of course, for discussion, and then any additions or changes that you'd like to make. So do I hear a motion?
I'll motion, so motion.
Got a motion? I'll second it. Roll call vote, please.
Any further discussion?
We need discussion.
Yeah, we want to discuss it.
Oh, yeah. Long day. Sorry. So, discussion. Who would like to start?
Go ahead, Ed. You can start.
Well, go ahead. I mean, we're just talking about the draft right now, correct?
All right, we're just talking about this one single page that we'll call first document. Draft document. Councilmember White, what would you like to add or change or?
Yes, well, part of the duties, like you were mentioning before, that how long the term lasts should also be in there. So it's going to be until the election.
Oh,
Okay?
that's fair.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
a
that's
good
the
term.
term, length of term.
Yeah, until the next
And,
regular election.
And I don't know if we should put down like what the salary is. Maybe people should know when they come in that there's what they'll be making. And maybe a guesstimate of how many hours it would entail.
That's a hard one.
I know, it's very
That's why I
hard.
asked the question. That's a
Right.
difficult one.
I'd probably put something like that, the time commitment varies, and come up with some language that goes from significant to less so.
As many hours as are necessary to perform the duties.
Yeah.
You're stuck.
Yep.
20 to 120.
We also, I asked HR about putting the salary on there. There is a salary and benefit package that went there, and we thought we'd leave it off there because we thought more so because of the type of position that we want somebody interested in serving the public, that was maybe less of an issue. We definitely could put something on there if it is. Yeah.
I mean,
It's not like a full-time, it's like a part-time.
I mean, it can be found online. People can search online.
Yeah, it's not
So
like it's not like it's
secret,
hidden. We just
but-
so that was. I'm not going to push on. We discussed it and we thought, well, let's just leave it off as.
Okay.
But any applicant can ask.
Yeah, they can, and we could put it on there, too. Just give us that direction.
I might have more questions, but if someone else wants to ask a few,
So,
then I can come back.
Okay, Councilmember Satterfield, do you have any thoughts or concerns?
Yes, I think this,
I thought it was off.
I think we're spinning our wheels here. There's obvious bias and prejudice from certain council members in this process, and I believe it should either be turned over to a citizens committee or to the governor so that everybody gets a fair shake. And if anybody's interested, I can prove that bias exists. So I think, I'm fine with either one. I'd prefer probably a citizens committee to not only pick the applicants, pick who's going to be interviewed, and actually make the final choice.
Excuse me, but I got to interrupt. We're talking about the draft right now.
And I'm opposed to the draft.
Pardon?
I'm opposed to the draft.
Okay.
And that's what I'm trying to explain, why I'm opposed to it. So, I think the draft, it should be turned over to a non-biased body, whether that be citizens from the area or the governor, and they'll probably want to, if that's agreed upon, they'll probably want to have their own system, or they'll want to do their own thing.
So one of the things I could add probably to that question is the Deputy Attorney General did indicate that we need to take every step possible first to try to appoint, to include gathering applications of interested applicants. And so as we look, I think just at this, just the draft of just this document, the one that we published that says, please tell us if you're interested, as step one, I think we're okay to do that. And we would need to do that anyways. So no matter what the outcome is later in step three, this needs to be done by council if possible so that we can get this solicitation out and start getting applications in from candidates to show that we are making a reasonable effort to do this in a timely manner and that we are taking the steps necessary to attempt to appoint. So if we break down this draft into three separate steps and we only look at the draft of the qualifications and we just kind of park there for a minute, I think you're fine to proceed with approving this with these changes that have been suggested if you choose.
My question to Councilmember Satterfield, do you have a bias?
I don't know who the applicants are other than myself, and I'm not biased against myself.
That's not the question. Is biased against yourself? Are you biased for yourself?
He doesn't get to vote.
I don't get to vote anyway.
He's saying we have a bias. I mean, come on. He has a bias too. So then no one gets to vote. I mean, come on.
Can we get to that in step three and just deal with the draft, please?
I was going to say, maybe it's step three, we can deal with this.
Yeah, right, but he brought it up, I wanted to address
I think what
that.
she's saying is if, regardless of your concerns, if it goes to the governor or goes to a third party or whatever, those concerns would be that third step. But we're supposed to do what we can to get some, whoever candidates, get some applicants here, so that if we get to step three, and we can't make a decision or you decide not to, then they have a package of information they'll take. Because I think I've seen this one other time, and the governor's office will then look to the candidates that we have, and then they'll look for recommendations from the community or whatever. But they probably won't want to start from ground zero.
Well, and just for clarification, since it's out in the record at this stage, the governor's office is going to require us not only to do as much of the work as we can, that we can't even go and ask the governor to appoint for us unless or until this council can sign an affidavit for a district court judge to issue an order based on my motion to ask the governor to appoint. So I have to be able to verify and certify in an affidavit that as legal counsel for the city, I can affirm that council has made every effort possible to appoint and is unable to. So it would be my affidavit, an affidavit from one, two, or more of you, preferably the entire council, and then a motion to district court. And then we get a court order that says we need the governor to appoint, and then it goes to the governor. So just so the public's aware of what the whole process is, we're not quite there yet. We need to do our work to get an applicant pool and make an effort to appoint a mayor in a reasonable amount of time.
So, Council Member Satterfield, do you have any other discussion on this?
Well, I don't have a problem in taking applications, but any decisions of interviews or who the interim mayor is going to be cannot be fair and non-biased with this council. So if we want to take applications, I'm fine with that, but anything beyond that, I just don't think this council can approve an interim mayor without being prejudiced and unbiased.
So are you okay then with this draft for the purpose of putting it out to the public?
Purpose of getting applications.
Okay.
Council Member DePriest.
Yeah, with regards specifically to the draft. I think a couple of notes I had on there, and it's been discussed where and how will it be advertised. I think that's important to obviously get out there. But also I would hope that anyone who would apply already knows of the situation, follows the city enough to be aware of what's happening, and understands that there is going to be an opening, and they're waiting for it to be put out there so that they can get going. Not someone go, hey, look at this, the Hayden needs a mayor. Gee, I think I could do that. And it was said here that I'd be concerned about anybody also who was, how much am I going to get paid? Okay, you know, I was a school teacher, and I am a retired school teacher, and it's one of those things where you don't do it for the money. And anybody who would be coming here looking at this at any position on the council who's even concerned about the money, yeah, I'd kind of worry about. As well as the time commitment, and it was put very well. Again, being a teacher and currently still a football coach, you do what you have to do to get the job done. Okay, and that's the type of person that I would hope we would find through this. So some of these things that, yeah, we all think about when we're involved in something, but I am fine with this draft to put out to the people to hopefully say, okay, you've been waiting for it because you're concerned about the well-being of the city. Let's put your applications in and let's get going.
My comments on it, I'm fine with the draft, and I think we need to go forward with a roll call vote, please.
Councilman Roeder,
Yes.
can I also add?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You thought that was Abby.
You had questions.
I would also like to know their qualifications for education. I guess that goes into their resume. So their education, and also a knowledge of the Constitution of Idaho, and just a knowledge of constitutional government and law.
Was that a part of the application for mayor that you want, or is that?
That would be maybe in the abilities and qualifications.
So, Councilwoman White?
Yes, ma'am.
When we get to the application, I just want to ask you if that would be, your concern would be satisfied here.
Okay.
So we have a box that says list current government or associated government positions you hold or have held. We could add another little piece there that says and knowledge of, government functions. Would that satisfy your concern on the application rather than on the qualifications page?
Yes.
Okay.
That would be fine. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I am done.
Okay. Any other further discussion or comments?
A question with Councilmember White, when you want education and stuff like that, is it done where X amount of college versus X amount of years of experience equal the same. I'll give you an example. When I worked for the county, if you had 4 years of experience, that equaled 1 year of education as far as higher education. and
What
that
I'm
stuff
what I'm
goes.
really saying is that I guess I'm saying in their resume they should list their education experience, their history of education. Okay?
But that would include experience.
Well, that experience is one thing, education is another thing. I think those are general things that people would put in a resume.
And just for clarification, the application requirements for the public do say submit a resume, cover letter, application, and 3 letters of reference. So
Okay, thank you.
we should get it covered there, so.
And the letters of reference are from Hayden citizens. so
Yes.
We put that on there.
Anything else? Okay, Abby, please take the roll call.
Councilmember White,
Yes.
Councilmember Satterfield,
Yes.
Council President Roder,
Yes.
and Councilmember DePriest.
Yes.
All right. 1 down, 2 to go. So let's start with the application for mayor, which would be our second item that we need to consider. So do we have a motion to approve the application for mayor as written on this 2 pages that was developed with the help of our HR department?
And with the addition from Councilwoman White in box 3 of current government or associated government positions you hold or have held and knowledge of governmental functioning or something along those lines.
Put the Constitution.
Yeah.
So the motion would include what Councilmember White would like to have, and which our legal counsel has then stated.
I would make the motion to approve the application for mayor with the additions so stated.
I second that.
Discussion. Comments? That's it? Okay. Well, then I would like to have our clerk please do a roll call, please.
Councilmember Satterfield,
Yes.
Council President Roder,
Yes.
Councilmember White,
Yes.
and Councilmember DePriest.
Yes.
Okay, to the harder part of this, and that is the suggested procedure for council to discuss and decide the flow chart that has been developed by our administrator and our legal counsel with key points to agree on. So we have some options here also to be thinking about.
And Council President Roder, not that you need to vote on each of these steps separately, but if you can deal with them one at a time, I think that's important. For instance, do you want to advertise for mayor from April 13th to April 22nd?
Okay, each step of the flow chart we ought to consider.
Yeah, you don't have to vote on it separately, just like knock it out in your deliberations as you go. And give some direction.
Okay. So, the motion then would be to consider the advertise for mayor from April 13th to the 22nd. Do I have some feedback on that? Because we're not going to vote in separate.
Correct.
So what is the feeling of council for that date range to advertise for mayor?
Can I ask, is the advertisement prepared? I mean, so tomorrow it could go out? Or will there be a preparation lead time before it actually does reach the resources?
We're just going to pull a small portion off of this sheet that we've approved. And so it would go out tomorrow.
Okay, so
It could be posted tomorrow and provided to the newspaper tomorrow.
It takes the paper a day or two, but we would post it like on all our boards tomorrow, and whenever the paper could get it, it might be 2 days until that's in the paper.
And
I
what
don't-
is the 22nd? I mean, tomorrow's...
22nd is a week from Friday, so it's not quite 2 weeks. And
That's a good point, because my question on that would be, can we make the application available online so that we can direct them to download it right from the website?
yeah, we should.
Okay.
That application is pretty simple.
Perfect.
So my question would be, would the city be issuing a press release, which is kind of an advertisement, or would we actually be taking out an ad and paying for it? Or would we do both?
How do we get both?
We could do both. I think that's probably fair to do both. I don't want to put the paper on the spot right now, but I'm sure that it will be in probably an article tomorrow on the process. I'm guessing. I'm looking at Devin. Not to put you on the spot.
Devin,
so I'm guessing
the Coeur d'Alene Press, raise your hand. She's been around here for a while and been with the press for a while.
I think what would probably be good to do is if she has the basic information in her article, and people can go to our website or come in and pick up one of these sheets or pick up an application paper form or do it online tomorrow. We can also pay for an ad that would come out in a couple days that then it would follow up on the article and have more specific information as well.
So any other comments on extension? Do we feel comfortable with this time frame? Do we feel like we need to add a little bit more time to it? What thoughts?
I'm fine with the time frame. As I said in the first part of it, basically, I hope that anybody who's even considering this is chomping at the bit and following what's happening right now, and that they'll be either online or calling or doing whatever they have to do to get it started. So I'm fine with the time frame.
26th and make it 2 weeks from today.
I was wondering, are we going to entertain the idea of more than one cycle of applications, or is it just this one cycle?
The result of this cycle would dictate whether or not you need a second,
Okay. But we could do a second if we needed to.
depending on the outcome of this one.
Right, okay. Okay, thank you.
So in other words, if we go through a cycle and we don't select someone, we could do this whole thing over again if the council decides to do that.
If council decided to do that, or if you impasse on every applicant, council may choose at that point to file an affidavit and go to the governor.
Okay.
Those are your options.
So just out of curiosity, the council members that will be able to vote on any applicant will be 3.
The council members that can vote on every non-council member applicant is 3.
So in other words, we can't have a tie.
You can, well, if either of the 2 council members at the end, if Councilwoman White and Councilman Satterfield decide to participate in the process, they only are precluded from voting on themselves.
Right, but what,
I think it's, excuse me.
Councilmember
Yeah,
White.
I just wanted to state that I have, through prayer and thought and counsel, I have decided to not put forth my application for mayor, so that will not be a problem. I feel like my place here is on the city council by 4-year term to be able to vote and have a voice. And so I will not be putting an application forth.
Thank you for that clarification. So Councilman Satterfield would not be able to vote on himself, but he could vote on other applicants.
Oh, okay, so, all right.
I need to comment here. Somewhat lengthy, what a surprise. And it's related to City Attorney's comments about fairness to all applicants or candidates. To begin with, I want to make it very clear that I believe that the people of Hayden, any person, should have the opportunity to apply for the mayor position if they feel that they are qualified. I want all of the citizens to have the opportunity to observe every aspect of the process that does not infringe on confidential aspects of individuals participating in the process. That being said, and this is not easy, I didn't sign up for this. I'm sorry that it's happening. I'm aware of information that leads me to feel that the selection process is so tainted that I don't believe that every potential applicant will receive the same equal and fair consideration. I was sent and am in possession of 2 emails written by a council member. In my opinion, these emails demonstrate a personal bias which makes it impossible for the author of the emails to render an unbiased consideration of a potential applicant. As such, and feeling that all individuals who may wish to apply will not receive the exact same fair consideration, I do not feel that with a good conscience I can participate in the process. I will have a difficult time participating in a process that I feel will not be equally fair to all who wish to apply. I would like to propose that the city solicit applications, resumes, etc. from those interested parties. That the human resources, maybe the city administrator, and possibly a committee of 3 to 5 people review the applications and select applicants for interviews. I propose that the council members submit interview questions to the city attorney for consideration, legality, etc., to be asked of the candidates. I propose that from those questions submitted to the council members, that a bank of questions submitted by the council members, that a bank of questions is developed to be asked of all applicants, each applicant be asked the same question.
Councilmember DePriest, we're talking about the advertising for the time frame.
Well, you brought up the issue of 2 or 3 voters and not having a tie, and coming on to your conversation.
We can go on further with that, but let's take the first step here and let's decide on that, because I need to keep this thing moving along.
Well, then I'll finish my statement here when we get to step 3.
You'll have an opportunity to do that. But
Okay.
Let's do just item number 1
That's
here.
fine. We're on item number 2, but here we go.
So we're discussing advertisement for mayor April 13th through the 22nd. And I would like to, yes.
I was just going to mention, we were talking about the timing. I know if you feel like you want a full 2 weeks too, we could, I put the 22nd in case you were trying to hit the 26th. That might be aggressive. If you want to do that, we can. If you want to do it to the, like say the 25th, which is a Monday, then you would have the applicants or know the number of applicants prior to your meeting on the 26th. I don't think, if it closes on the 22nd, that we're going to be ready to do a whole lot on the 26th anyway. I'm throwing it out there. We could do either.
So to extend the application timeframe to the 25th, the most we'd be able to do then on the 26th is maybe let the public know who the applicants are.
It would go from the 22nd, which is Friday, to the 25th, which is Monday, which would be a full 2 weeks. And then it would close on the 25th. We would have the number, we would know who the applicants are. We could give you the applicants for the meeting. We wouldn't be doing anything at that meeting on the 26th to narrow down. There's not enough time to go through them. So I'm okay with that time frame.
So we're talking about 13th through the 26th.
25th.
25th
at 5, yeah. I think that gives you a full 2 weeks.
I'm fine with that.
That's okay. I'm just adjusting that.
So what is the consensus for the advertisement for mayor April 13th through the 25th?
Yes.
Yes.
Does that work?
Yes. All right. Number 1 done. Okay. Number 2, close application on the 25th, put packets together.
Right.
So that leads right
same
into
thing.
changing that date to the 25th. Is there any discussion on the change of that date for item number 2?
That's fine.
Do we have agreement?
Agreement.
Okay. Number 2 is done. Okay. This is where we have some options to choose. Option below.
Council President Roeder?
Yes.
Also, in that second box, it was the 3 choices of how to rate the candidates in order from top to bottom. Is that right?
Yeah, so the first one is that, and we didn't put in your packet because we weren't sure that was the direction you want to go, but it's a tool that we use in the application process, it'll have a factor. It might be education or experience, and it has a rating factor of like 1 to 5. And so that's one way you could do it is that HR attorney, we come up with these factors.
Basically score the application.
You're basically scoring and come up with a numerical score, and then you take the top, whether it's 3 or 4, whatever you're going to do. Here's the top by numeric, these top 3. Move on to an interview process that would be in front of council in a meeting. And then you could ask those questions. So it's a way to narrow it down to 3 or 4. Again, that process may not need to happen if we only have 3 candidates. I'm really unsure how many people will be interested in this.
So going back to our item number 3 here, 3 options that were presented to us tonight. Option number 1 is non-candidate council rates candidates numerically top go to interview, just as Brett suggested. Item number 2 under the option would be council debates and decides. And the third option is independent body review and suggest an example, chamber president, jobs plus, county commissioners, press, prior mayors, then would make the selection of...
Or whoever you designated to be on that independent body. Yeah.
So I'd like to have some discussion on 1, 2, and 3 as options. Yes, Councilmember White.
I'm leaning towards the number 2, the council debates and decides. The statutes give us that opportunity and that responsibility to choose the next mayor, and I would like that to be amongst us.
So I just want to make sure that staff has clear direction on that. So that council debates and decides is having council publicly debate and narrow. We're just talking the process to narrow it down to 3 or 4 right now. So your preference is to leave all of that discussion, deliberation, and decision making at the council level.
Yes.
Okay.
Which would be all at a public meeting.
Correct.
So it would be open to everyone.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So it wouldn't be behind doors.
Correct.
Or anything, so the public could see exactly the questions asked.
No, this isn't questions. This
Oh,
is
it's
not.
great. It's
This is just narrowing down to who you're going to
Which we may not
interview.
have to do
Based on,
Right.
based on their application package, everything that you've received, you go through and
Right.
just debate and discuss that.
So you publicly deliberate on, let's say you get 10 and you want to interview 3, you're publicly deliberating the narrowing of that 10 down to 3, which is fine. It's just, I just wanted to make sure you are all clear at this step. We're not talking about how to conduct the interview process. We're talking about how to narrow the candidate list.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Satterfield.
The only one I'd be good with is number 3.
Which is?
Which is an independent body review and suggest people like the chamber president, Jobs Plus, prior mayors, people from the community in general.
And Fonda, the question is, the statute does first say that the council will first look to appoint from within and then from without. It says nothing about the public.
It says shall appoint. You would still do the appointment. This piece is just who narrows the list to 3. The council has to do the appointment.
Okay. Any other comments? Councilmember Satterfield.
Well, again, I don't want to keep rehashing it, but I don't think this council can even select who's going to be interviewed without prejudice and bias.
Councilmember DePriest.
Yeah, I guess I'll go into that segment of my statement here. See if I can kind of break this up so I can finish it when we get to number 3 and 4. Again, I'm concerned that if a council member is an applicant and therefore cannot vote, and because I feel the process is so tainted that I would then not be able to vote, that we do need, and I'm just going to speak to this issue here, an independent body to determine who would be interviewed. Again, I from the emails that I have, they indicate to me that there is an issue that's beyond the ability to put personal feelings aside, and it so taints it that I feel it's necessary to come up with some form of a committee to review, an independent, unbiased, impartial, however you want to put it, committee to review the applications and select the candidates for interview. So I would go if number 3, if you want to put it in categories here.
We as elected officials, and we've all been elected by the public, we're entrusted with candidates based on what we believe our constituents want. I think it would be a how to put the words, it's anti-democratic that we would not be able to vote based on what the Idaho statute allows us to do representing our people. To take that vote away and give it to a group of builders or developers or bankers or whoever, they have biases. So how do you take bias away? Your opinions are formed over time regarding votes and people. And it's, like I've said, it's how do you unring a bell? It's out there. So I think if it boils down, everybody has an opinion. Everybody has some sort of bias, whether that's good or bad. You have to evaluate that yourself. So I'm very much opposed to taking away something that we were elected to do, and that's to represent the people. So I'm very much opposed to number 3. I'm fine with either 1 or 2, and then I like the idea that there's a numeric value that we can place, with the help of HR, that we can then evaluate each potential applicant. But the problem is we now have a 2-2 tie, it sounds like.
May I say something else?
Yes, please.
Yes. I would also like to say that I have faith in our constituents that, I mean, without looking at who's going to apply, how can we even say that there's bias? I mean, we haven't even seen what's out there. We haven't seen the applicants. I have every hope that someone that's going to satisfy us is going to step forward, and without even giving that a chance to say we have bias, I think is wrong. And I don't understand the term bias. I mean, is not bias just voting for one person? And if we don't vote for that one person, are we biased? And I don't think that's a fair statement. So,
Well,
because, I mean, we represent our constituents, and we must act in good faith. So that's everything.
and again, without being able to put it out to a ballot, I've heard from several of our constituents, and they are very concerned about the issues that we're talking about with regard to bias. And I can read the emails, portions of them, excerpts of them, that lead me to feel the way I do. And human nature is what it is. I don't care how much you say, oh, I can put all of this aside. When you have personal feelings that have been insulted, infringed on, or whatever, you cannot look at that person next to the next person and the next person and say, I'm going to give that person that has insulted me, or whatever you want to call it, the same consideration that I'm going to give the next person and the next person.
So I have to ask, are you going to read private emails between individuals.
I think I have a right to read emails that were sent to me.
Well, no, my question is, are you rating private emails between two people?
How did I come into possession of them? If I was sent emails by individuals who received emails, do they not have that right to send them to me?
No, my question is, are they private emails?
What's a private email?
Something between two people?
Are we about transparency here?
That's not the question.
Yes, it is. In this situation, if we're talking about transparency on the issue, then an email that was sent and then passed along by a constituent.
Okay, who's the email from?
One is from Joy Richards, and one is from the one that you wrote. You know very well what the other one is. It's the one you sent to Councilmember Satterfield.
Point of order. I think we're off track here. I think we should be focusing on what our options are here.
We're not debating whether we have a bias or not. That's not what we're trying to decide right now. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about what option are we going to choose to move forward. So what's your position is? You don't feel that there's a.
If Councilmember Satterfield applies, because of what I feel about what I've read, the comments in this, I feel there's a definite bias and an inability for him to get a fair consideration with any other one. If Councilmember Satterfield were to look at the applicants and say, I think those are quality people and I'm going to step away, then I would participate in that process. What I have observed here over the last period of time that this has been going on, and then when you have constituents sending emails because they're so concerned about the tone of them and the like, then again, my conscience really begs me to question whether I can participate in a decision related to Councilmember Satterfield. If he were to step away from it, then I'm all for the process moving forward with the council making all the decisions. But when you read these things, anybody who would read them would say the individual who wrote these has a serious personal problem with the person that they wrote them to, and you can't just put it aside.
Councilman DePriest, may I ask you a question?
Sure.
I want to interpret a little bit what you're saying and make sure that I understand from a process perspective where this might land. So if I hear you correctly, what you're indicating is if Councilman Satterfield continues to move forward as an applicant, when it comes time to vote on him, you would recuse yourself from that vote.
Not just him. I don't feel that if he is in the process, I feel that he basically be ignored by.
So you would recuse yourself from the entire process. That's what I'm trying to understand.
If he is involved in it, yes, because I don't feel that he, as part of the group, would receive the same equal and fair consideration as every other applicant. Okay. If he were to step away, then this bias
then
that
we don't have a quorum. We would not have a quorum for considering Councilperson Satterfield.
So I have a question for our legal counsel.
It might require me to get back to you, but go ahead.
Well, I think I sent you an email asking whether if Council Member Satterfield voted to become mayor, he would actually be breaking Idaho code.
If he does that in the process once it goes out to the public.
So what happened last meeting is that he voted for himself.
He did, but it was not in a process where it was out to the public yet, number one. And number two, it was a failed vote, so it had no effect.
So that was okay. But now that so he could have become mayor, it's possible. So he did vote for himself. But now that we go through another process, if he votes for himself, he's violated Idaho code.
Correct. That's pursuant to direction I received from the Deputy Attorney General in trying to get some guidance on all of this process piece.
Okay, I'm not going to allow Ed DePriest to read those emails. Those are private emails. That's my ruling. So let's move on.
Can I ask legal, does he have that right to do so?
Well,
To prevent me from reading emails that were sent to me?
you have a right to make whatever public comment you wish to make without jeopardizing the city in the process, is my advice. As I have told all of you at different times, I represent all of you collectively and none of you individually. And I represent the best interests of the city. And it is my job to help you protect the process. That's been the reason we've been reaching out to the Attorney General. This is unprecedented in the state. It's the reason we're trying to get direction from a state body that can help us through this process. So that's why I asked you the question of, are you saying you're going to recuse yourself, and from what? Because it's my job as legal counsel to assess now where does this leave the process? Are we at a place where you can't agree on the process and such? We're at the spot where an affidavit can go to the court. I'm trying to assess where are we in these steps of direction that we've been given for our options, because you have an obligation to do everything within your power to appoint a mayor. The statute says shall. And it is a derelict of your responsibilities to not. But you have a right to recuse yourself. You have a right to make personal assessments about the process. I just need to know what those are so I can advise you accordingly once those decisions are made.
Then I'd like to clarify again. I'm all for the process of collecting, soliciting, bringing the people applications in for the process. If Councilmember Satterfield is in the process and remains in the process, then I think it's so tainted that I don't feel I'll be able to participate. If he decides at some point in time to step away, then I feel that the council will be able to then execute the process, I guess you could say.
So I want to understand, our legal counsel, that basically by reading these emails, it could bring liability to the city and maybe personally to Ed.
I did not say that.
Okay, so
I think people get the gist of it. So I don't need to read them. I think people get the gist of them.
all right, so we are now at a standstill on item 3.
Yes, Councilwoman White has a
I'm
question.
sorry.
I have a question. So, Councilmember DePriest,
Getting the application.
based on what you're saying, what's the only acceptable outcome you see?
I think there are several potential outcomes, and I think that I just described it. Outcome number one is that Councilmember Satterfield is involved in the process all the way through until he is either, selected for interview or what have you, and further down the line, or at some point in time, possibly, the candidates that do apply, Councilmember Satterfield might possibly look at them and say, there's qualified people here. I'm going to step back, and if he does so, then I'm fine participating. Like I said, my only real problem here within my own conscience is I've looked at this and thought about it deeply, and it's deeply troubling to me, and it is not something I do easily. But again, we're talking about equality, fairness, the same consideration to everybody, and as long as Councilmember Satterfield is in the process, I don't feel that every candidate will receive equal and fair consideration.
So can you read the minds of other council members and their ability to vote?
Can anybody read minds? Okay, I base my decision here on I'm 64 years old. My life's experiences with interacting with people and things like that. And I find it very difficult to believe that people, just in human nature, and again my experience is that when people have such a apparently deep-seated personal conflict with another person, that even in such close proximity of time now, that they will have that. I don't have confidence that that person has the ability to say, oh, all that stuff aside, nope, and all that stuff, nope. I'm gonna judge him as equally as I'm gonna judge everybody else in the process. That's just
my question is, can you read people's
I can't
mind?
read it. And a good attorney asks questions he knows he's going to get the answer to. Okay? Anybody in here read minds?
I'm just asking
Certainly
you
not.
because you seem
And
to know what.
I'm not claiming to read anybody's
Can I-
mind.
Time out.
Can I?
Point of order.
I think we're at a little bit of an impasse here, but I think I hear some common ground in that we could move forward with getting the applications.
Yes.
If that's okay, and we can get to that point, what I would suggest, we'll get those applications on the 25th, and on the 26th, we can see and have further discussion on, once we have those, how do we want to proceed?
So my suggestion on that is going to be that the applications only come to Brett and to myself. Nobody else is going to know who's in that application pool, because the council should not attempt to make a decision on the process based on who's in the application pool. So, and it's a little bit unsettling to solicit for applicants without the applicant knowing what the process is going to be to go from A to Z. However, I can support, if council supports it, at least gathering applications, but those applications are to be held in confidence until there's a final decision on the process, would be my suggestion.
And I think the purpose in that is that we are then trying to do all that we can as a city to follow the guidelines that we
Correct.
receive from the Attorney General's office.
Correct.
So, and I guess in the meantime,
If you remain at impasse on the process, I will have no choice but to recommend as legal counsel that you sign an affidavit and allow us to go forward to district court to get an order to have the governor appoint a mayor. I have no choice but to advise you of that.
and I would remind you again, having the people decide, so it's the next regular election, so, okay, it's a year and a little over a half that we would have this person in. Whoever that is will have to run for election. And I think, in the community, they want to see us look to the higher good above, maybe above politics, and do what's right, for the citizens and move the city forward. And so, I don't want to. You guys are the electeds, and I'm just throwing that out there as a reminder. I think based on maybe things I've heard from other citizens and employees, let's maybe try and take a higher road as much as we can. So sorry if that sounds because you guys are my boss.
Well, this is we're told this is a very unusual situation that we're in. This isn't something that any city council has to deal with on a regular basis. So, and we do have differences in opinion on how things should be done, and that's where, even if you look at the founding fathers in the early Congress, there were duels that went on between members. I mean,
I'm not recommending that.
no, I'm not. But I'm just saying that, as long as we have debate and we keep it civil, this is not atypical. I think it's a good thing that we're going through this process, although it's not easy.
Unprecedented.
Can we work on these other steps and try to approve them, or are we in an impasse?
I've heard an impasse on step number 3.
I think I was suggesting maybe we get maybe to the next meeting and then you.
So we can take we're going to advertise. We're going to take applications, resumes, and letters of reference, and we're going to continue on.
So you could make a motion to direct staff to proceed with steps 1 and 2. And I would like included in that motion, if you're okay with it, that the applications then would be kept in confidence until you have an opportunity to again try to establish process.
Could you please repeat that for me?
Yes. So you can make a motion to proceed with posting the qualifications and the application and having the applications come into the city, which your city administrator would keep under lock and key until you can either agree on a process, which you would try again at the next meeting, or you impasse and then we have to figure out how to get this to the governor.
I make a motion that we accept applications and move forward.
With steps 1 and 2.
Steps 1 and 2.
And discuss process again at the next meeting.
The next meeting, yes.
And that the applications be kept under lock and key.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Yes,
I would just
Councilmember.
like to encourage the wonderful people out there in Hayden to apply. And so I don't want to discourage anyone from applying because we really need good applicants to move our city forward.
I would also, are you done?
I am done,
Okay.
thank you.
I would also suggest that with all of the comments, the innuendos, etc., that I'm a little surprised that Councilmember Roeder does not want to go for option 3, which would put it before the citizens that we represent and let them decide, because there's, in my mind, there's always going to be the question amongst our citizens, what's going on? Who's being treated fairly, who's not being treated fairly, or simply do the affidavit thing and send it to the governor. But, I represent the people. Why not let them choose? And then there's no question of bias, prejudice, or anything else. So, I'm done.
Councilmember DePriest.
I'm done. Let's move on to the next item.
All right, Abby, please, roll call vote.
Council President Roeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
Councilmember DePriest?
Yes.
And Councilmember White?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to the next item. Unfinished business, 5B. Action item PZE-21-0241, Thousand Hills Zone Map Amendment Ordinance.
May I say, can we take a short personal break?
These won't take long.
These won't take long. Okay, never mind.
Now, by the way, we, as the last item, will be going into executive session. I can assure you that when we come out of executive session, there will be no action taken on any matters. No decision can be made in executive session. So the reason why I bring that up is if you want to leave before it happens, you're not going to miss anything by leaving. But I want to let you know. So, do we? Because we're going to go into executive session. Do you want to take a break now or before executive session? Any thoughts?
Unless it's urgent, I'm fine until we finish here before executive session.
That's fine.
Okay, so let's move on. Okay. I'd like to, I gotta get this. I'd like a motion to read the ordinance by title only, to suspend the rule of reading in full on 3 separate dates, and to approve the first reading, followed by a roll call vote. So I'm looking for a motion to do that.
So motion.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Council President Roeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
And Councilmember DePriest?
Yes.
So I just read the summary, correct?
Oh, this one.
Oh,
The title.
by the title, here we go. All right. Hey, I'm new. Hang in there. Okay, Ordinance, I don't have a number, but Thousand Hills PZE-21-0241 zone map, zone map amendment. An ordinance of the City of Hayden, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, providing for change in zoning classification for the lands described in Section 1 of this ordinance from commercial to mixed use, providing for amendment of the official zoning map to reflect these changes, providing that all prior zone application to the lands described in Section 1 are hereby superseded, providing severability, and providing an effective date. So I need a motion to approve this ordinance as read.
So motion.
Second.
Sorry, can you read the whole motion? I think it needs to
Oh.
include all of that.
Motion that the ordinance be adopted on its having passed its first reading by title only, and that it be published by summary incorporating the title as the core of the summary upon passage, followed by a roll call vote. So we have a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Council President Roeder?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
And Councilmember DePriest?
Yes.
It passes. Okay, we're going to go to the last action item, which is 5C, which is the PZE-21-0264 Taylor Zone Map Amendment Ordinance. So I need a motion to read the ordinance by title only, to suspend the rule of reading in full on 3 separate dates, and to approve the first reading followed by a roll call vote.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Council President Roeder?
Yes.
Councilmember DePriest?
Yes.
And Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
Taylor, PZE-21-0264 Zone Map Amendment. An ordinance of the City of Hayden, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, providing for change in zoning classification for the lands described in Section 1 of this ordinance from residential, multifamily to commercial, providing for amendment of the official zoning map to reflect these changes, providing that all prior zone applicable to the lands described in Section 1 are hereby superseded, providing severability, and providing an effective date. So I need a motion that the ordinance be adopted on its having passed its first reading by title only, and that it be published by summary incorporating the title as the core of the summary upon passage, followed by a roll call vote.
So motion.
I'll second. Roll call or discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Council President Roeder?
Yes.
And Councilmember DePriest?
Yes.
Okay, reports. 6A, City Administrator Report and Calendar Review, please.
Just a couple items, thank you. If you haven't signed up for the Association of Idaho City Spring Training, that's April 18th, so that's coming up next Monday. A couple of you have signed up. A couple staff members are there. It's always good to be there if you have the time to do it. Talk with Abby. She can get you signed up if you can make that. It's in the morning, like 3/4 of the day. The Public Safety Task Force, in which the resolution was passed to move forward with that, has their first meeting on April 19th at 3 p.m. here. And so that's gone out. We look forward to getting with that new group and talking with them and starting work in that area. We have April 27th is the council retreat. That's the budget kickoff, goal-setting budget kickoff. Again, April 27th.
That's at Camp Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Yeah. Yeah. The Honeysuckle Beach and Boat Launch Report is done, and so they'll be ready to make a report. And so I throw that out to council if you want us to bring that at the next meeting, or we can bring it at a later one. There's not something that has to be done, but their work is completed, and they're ready to come and make that report. So We can look at the schedule and see if we're going to have a heavy one. I always look at Donna to see what we have coming up from P&Z to see if it's heavy. You take the report. You don't have to necessarily do anything. It'd probably be in accepting that. Not that we have to take action. I know we have a lot of things going on. If you want to take the information, you could give direction or just put it on hold. We can do whatever you want. So any thoughts, ideas on the Honeysuckle Beach boat launch, what you'd like to do with that?
Brett, are we going to have a facilities meeting this Thursday to discuss that report?
Yes, we have it on the schedule. I wanted to make sure you guys were able to be there, and we can do it online if we need to as well. But yes, we are planning on doing that. Do you want to look at it first and then decide on the 26th? Okay.
Yeah, I can. I don't know about Councilmember Satterfield if he's available.
Would you like to get that report and discuss it there and then bring it back to the council on the 26th and then decide from that point when you want to set it for an agenda item?
I'd say yes.
Okay. Why don't we talk about it Thursday, and then we'll get copies of that for you and then go from there.
Is that facilities meeting open to all who want to attend and observe? Or
You can, but if we have more than two of you, we need to know because we'd have to publish it as a city meeting, a public meeting.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, but we can. It's a subcommittee from the council that we have appointed folks. Everything that or major decisions come up to the council from there. A couple of you, I think, Councilmember Roeder and DePriest came to the employee meeting, and I was just going to report that we had a fire training for the building. We hadn't had one for a while. We were working on doing a fire drill, and an unknown date and time for the employees. We'll be having a fire drill, and he went through some different things for us to watch out for. So our emergency committee meets before the facilities committee made up of employees, and so we meet once a month just to talk about emergencies that can happen with this building or just generally in the whole city, and we have some procedures and things in place, and we go over those. Last item is the Honeysuckle and 4th Street. I just want you to be aware, and Alan may want to chime in, on your desk, we did pass to move forward. This is going to be a tough one for the public because it's the Honeysuckle and 4th Street roundabout, and it's going to require a closure of that for a period of time with detour. We've put it on our Facebook page. We have the electronic reader boards out, and now that we know that we're going to extend the time, and for the public, just the kind of the simple answer is we're extending the time that it's going to be closed, but they're going to get the project done sooner, and so the idea is that they'll have the project done just before July 4th, so before the busy boating season. So it's going to be painful for a while. I'm sure we're going to get calls because the folks that live on the other side of the lake normally come down this way, shoot there, and get on 4th Street and go in a quarter lane that way. They're going to have to go detour the Strayhorn and up. So for that period of time. And so in your packet, we have the detour route, and then also the press release. We didn't want to put the press release out until we found out if that was going to be approved tonight. And so there's a draft press release for you to take as well. And so if you have any questions from folks, we're trying to reach out to the Homeowners Association of Forest Hills to give them this information, and also reach out to the Homeowners Association around the lake to let them know. They're probably still not going to be happy with that intersection being closed for a period of time, but at least they'll know what's going on and what's happening. So, Alan?
I just want to clarify that the detour route will be up longer and in process longer, but the closure of the intersection with all the partial closures and everything else will be shorter. So,
will it be intermittent closures, or once they pretty much decide?
There was going to be intermittent closures, and what we've decided is to try to condense that, get it closed, get it done, get it backed up. It would have been closed, and then this lane would be closed, and this lane would be closed, and people would be showing up on that lane and find out now they can't get through. And frustration, we determined the frustration level would have went way up, and being able to shorten the overall project time, I think will end up being much better for the public. So it was going to be closed the whole time. It's just how it's closed is changing.
And they're anticipating closing it on the 25th?
That is the current schedule, yes.
And it won't be open again until June 24th, type of roughly-ish, according to what I'm seeing here.
I'd have to count, but yeah.
But roughly,
That sounds right.
Once they close it, they won't open it again until it's done, basically.
They won't open until they've got that amount of time to try and get all the underground utilities, get some of the concrete and stuff in the way so that we can get traffic through it, so.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett, for your report. Now, 6B reports, Mayor Council Roundtable discussion. Anything that you want to talk about or any non-action items that you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Councilmember White.
I just want to say, I think, I believe in God, and I think He has good things in store for Hayden, and we just need to be spending the next 2 weeks praying and asking Him to give us direction. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Councilmember Priest? Nope. Councilmember Satterfield?
Nope.
That's all. I don't have anything either, but thank you for being patient with me. This is a new thing for me. And I know for 2 council members, it's new and they're doing a good job. And you know, we all learn as we go along. So thank you for your patience and thank you for being here. And our next item on the agenda is an executive session. Action will be taken to enter and exit executive session. No action will be taken during the executive session. And we're going into executive session based on Idaho Code 74-061C to acquire an interest in real property which is not owned by a public agency. Is there any discussion about this from the council? If not, I need a motion to go into executive session, please.
Could we take a personal break first?
Take a 5-minute or 10-minute break.
Do we?
But you can do your motion to go in and then break and then go.
Yeah. I'll motion to go into executive session.
Second.
I'm sorry. I was going to excuse myself from the executive session. My husband's here, but I need to go take care of him. He's
Okay.
okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so is there any further discussion on it? Roll call vote, please.
Let me ask legal counsel. Would you like me to include Councilmember White?
No, since she's excusing herself now.
I'm excusing myself for personal reasons.
Councilmember Roeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
And Councilmember DePriest?
Yes.
Are we still doing the 5-minute break?
Yes.
Might be a